The rain had stopped, but the sky over the cemetery still hung low and grey, as if it hadn't decided whether to grieve or move on. Emma stood at the edge of the fresh grave, her black coat soaked at the hem, watching the last shovel of earth fall over the coffin that held David, her husband of 11 years. People had come and gone. Hands had squeezed her shoulder. Voices had said, "I'm so sorry," until the words lost all meaning. Now the cemetery was empty except for her and the silence. She didn't remember walking to her car. She didn't remember starting the engine. She only remembered driving, turning left when she meant to turn right, taking roads she didn't recognize, watching the town dissolve into fields, then forest, then nothing at all. The radio played something soft. She turned it off. The silence was worse, but at least it was honest. 2 hours passed. Then 3. Towns blurred past her windows, their lights swallowed by darkness as quickly as they appeared. The fuel gauge dipped toward empty, but Emma barely noticed. Her mind was somewhere else, replaying the last morning she'd seen him alive. He had kissed her forehead before leaving for his usual run. "Back in 30 minutes, he'd said. He never came back. His heart had simply stopped, right there on the trail, 3 streets from their home. 30 minutes. 11 years. Gone, just like that. The car sputtered. Emma blinked, suddenly aware of her surroundings. A narrow road cutting through pine trees, no houses, no gas stations, no other cars. The engine coughed once more and died. She coasted to a stop on the gravel shoulder. She sat there for a long moment, gripping the wheel, staring at nothing. Then, oddly, she laughed. A short, broken sound. "Of course," she whispered. "Of course this is how today ends." She stepped out into the cool evening air. The trees swayed gently, and somewhere in the distance she heard the trickle of water. A stream, maybe. She had no phone signal. No idea where she was. And, strangely, she didn't care. She began walking, following the faint dirt path beside the road, gravel crunching softly beneath her shoes, not because she expected to find anything, but because standing still felt unbearable. After a few minutes, the trees opened into a clearing, and she stopped. There was a house. Small, wooden, with a porch light glowing warm against the coming dusk. Smoke curled from its chimney. It looked like something from an old photograph, the kind of place time had forgotten. Emma stared at it, her breath catching, because something about it felt achingly familiar, though she was certain she had never been here before. She hesitated, then walked toward it. Before she could knock, the door opened. An elderly woman stood there, silver-haired, wrapped in a knitted shawl, her eyes soft but knowing. She looked at Emma the way someone looks at a person they've been expecting. "You're here," the woman said quietly. "I wondered when you'd come." Emma frowned. "I'm sorry, do we know each other? My car ran out of gas, I didn't mean to." "I know," the woman said gently.
"Come in, dear."
"You must be exhausted." Something about her voice made arguing impossible. Emma stepped inside. The house smelled of cedar and old books, of wood smoke and something faintly sweet, like cinnamon left too long on a stove. A fire crackled in the hearth, throwing gold light across worn wooden furniture that looked older than Emma herself. On the mantel sat a row of photographs, and Emma's heart stopped when she saw one of them. David. Younger, maybe 25, standing beside this same woman, both of them laughing in front of this very house. "That's my husband," Emma said, her voice trembling. "How do you have a picture of my husband?" The woman's eyes filled with tears. "David was my nephew. My sister's boy. He used to spend every summer here, until life pulled him elsewhere." She gestured for Emma to sit. "I hadn't seen him in almost 15 years. But 2 months ago, he came to visit. Out of nowhere. Said he had a feeling he should see me." Emma's hands were shaking. 2 months ago, he told me he was at a conference in Denver. The woman shook her head slowly. "He was here. He sat right where you're sitting now. He told me about you, Emma. He talked about you for hours, how you two met in the rain outside a bookstore, how you always steal the blankets at night, how you make the worst coffee he'd ever tasted but he drank it every morning anyway because you made it with love." Tears spilled down Emma's face before she could stop them. "He said something else, too," the woman continued. "He said, 'Aunt Ruth, if anything ever happens to me, promise you'll be here. Emma might need somewhere to go that isn't home, isn't a hospital, isn't a funeral parlor. Somewhere with no memories of him to make it hurt worse, just quiet, and someone who loved him too. I asked why he was saying such things. He just smiled and said, "A man knows things sometimes." Emma pressed a hand to her mouth, sobbing now, the weight of the entire day finally breaking through the numbness she'd been hiding behind. "He knew," Emma whispered. "He knew something was wrong with his heart, didn't he? The doctors said it was sudden. But he knew." Ruth reached over and took her hand. "I think somewhere inside, he did. Men like David don't say things like that for no reason. He wanted to make sure that if the worst happened, you wouldn't be alone in your grief, driving nowhere, ending up nowhere. But I didn't even know this place existed. How did I end up here, of all roads?" Ruth smiled sadly. "This road only leads to one place, dear. My house. There's nothing else out this way. No town, no gas station, nothing beyond these trees. Your car didn't die by accident. It died exactly far enough to bring you to my door." Emma sat in stunned silence, staring at the fire, at the photograph of young David laughing beside his aunt, at the woman who had somehow been waiting for a stranger she'd never met, because a nephew had asked her to. "I don't understand how this is possible," Emma finally said. "Grief doesn't follow logic," Ruth said. "Sometimes the people we love leave pieces of themselves behind. Plans, promises, small arrangements, long before we understand why. David didn't know the day or the hour. But he made sure that if this day ever came, you'd end up somewhere safe. Somewhere with someone who could hold you the way he would have wanted." That night, Emma stayed. Ruth made tea, and they talked until midnight, about David as a boy climbing trees behind the house, about the summer he broke his arm trying to build a treehouse, about the way he used to write letters to no one in particular just to organize his thoughts. Ruth pulled out a small wooden box. "He left this here," she said. "Told me to give it to you, if you ever came. I didn't think you would. I didn't think any of it would really happen." Inside the box was a letter, folded neatly, Emma's name written on the front in David's familiar handwriting. "My Emma. If you're reading this, it means I'm not there to hold you through whatever storm brought you here. I don't know why I feel the need to write this. Call it instinct, call it fear, call it love trying to protect you even when I can't. If something happens to me, please don't disappear into your grief alone. Drive if you need to. Cry if you need to. But know that somewhere out there, there's a place, and a person, who will remind you that you are loved completely, and that love doesn't end just because a heart stops beating. I love you more than any road could ever lead you away from. Yours, always, David." Emma held the letter to her chest and wept, not just from grief now, but from something gentler beneath it. Relief. Comfort. The quiet, impossible feeling of being found exactly when she was most lost. She read the letter twice more that night, tracing his handwriting with her fingertip as if she could feel the pressure of his hand still resting in the ink, still warm somehow, still his. Ruth sat beside her in silence, letting the fire fill the space words couldn't, and for the first time since the funeral, Emma didn't feel like she was drowning. She felt, impossibly, like she was being carried. The car was towed the next morning. Ruth insisted Emma stay for breakfast, then for lunch, then for the week. What began as an accidental stop became a lifeline, a small wooden house in the middle of nowhere that somehow held everything Emma needed to begin healing. She returned home eventually, but she visited Ruth every month after that, the drive no longer aimless, but a pilgrimage. She learned to keep the tank full now, a small private joke between herself and the memory of that first empty-handed journey. She learned to sit on Ruth's porch in the evenings, watching the same trees David once climbed, feeling less like a widow and more like someone slowly being handed her life back, piece by careful piece. And every time she turned onto that quiet forest road, she felt David beside her, not gone, not entirely, but woven into the small, impossible mercy of a house that had been waiting, all along, exactly where her heart needed to stop.